My next guest is an NBA analyst for TSN and the on-air in-game broadcaster for the Toronto Raptors. Also, he is a three-time winner of the Canadian Screen Award for Best Sports Analyst in a Sports Program or Series. Please welcome to the show, Jack Armstrong. Jack, how are you?
I'm great, Vince. Thanks for having me on, and it's an honor and privilege to join you today. And just trying to stay busy during this quarantine and quiet period right now, where we're all social distancing. And fingers crossed, people stay healthy. And thanks to all our frontline workers for all the great job that they're doing. And hope to be back with basketball and sports in general soon, and when the authorities deem it be healthy, safe enough for everyone to be able to do it with good health.
Couldn't agree more. Jack, so starting out in your career from 1989 until 1998, you're the head coach of the Niagara basketball team. How was the transition like in your career from going from a coaching career to going into broadcasting?
It was kind of a relief. I really had a great time coaching. It's an exhausting business, and when I left Niagara in 1998, I kind of needed a year off to kind of catch my breath and get my feet back on the ground again. And the opportunity with the Raptors just presented itself. I was very fortunate, and I worked with an incredible guy named Chuck Swirsky. He and I were hired at the same time to be the radio broadcast team for the Raptors. And it was just a really fun experience. So kind of a year into doing it, I was like, I'm having a lot of fun doing this. This is a really cool gig. And not only was I doing the Raptors, I was doing a lot of college basketball in the States on television for ESPN and MSG Network, Fox, Empire Sports Network, a number of different networks. So I was really busy right off the bat. And having been used to, when I was coaching, putting 16, 18-hour days in every day, I was, used to grinding every day. And to jump into an NBA schedule and a college schedule. And if you remember my first year in 1998, people kind of forget 98, 99 season was a lockout season. So we played 50 games in 90 days, which was insane. It was Vince Carter's rookie year. So the first game I ever called was in Boston, Vince Carter's first game against the Celtics, and Paul Pierce, that was his first game as a player as well. And obviously, as we know, both of them will end up in the Hall of Fame. And I actually coached against Paul when he was at the University of Kansas. They were the number one team in college basketball when I was the head coach at Niagara. So it was really cool way to start my career in the pros. And here I am 22 years later, still doing it and having a great time.
Jack, did you have any mentors growing up or mentors in your professional career?
Wow, I got a lot of them. When I think of coaching, probably guys I worked for at Fordham University in New York, a guy named Tom Penders, who was a great role model for me. Nick McCarchick, who was the other head coach at Fordham in my time there. Those two guys really helped me, get going as a college coach. Guy Pete Gillen, who was the head coach at Xavier, University of Virginia, Providence. Pete's a Brooklyn guy like me. He helped me get into college coaching. He coached in my high school, Nazareth High School, years before I was there. And he helped me get in as an assistant at Fordham. Those would be a few guys, starting out. A guy named Marty Harrison, who hired me at Nazareth High School when I was a high school coach, giving me an opportunity there. And then, becoming a college head coach, a guy named Frank Layden, who was the former president, GM, head coach of the Utah Jazz, drafted and coached John Stockton and Karl Malone. Frank's a Niagara guy. UB Brown, another Niagara guy. Those guys were really good to me. And then so many people in Toronto, a guy, Nelson Millman, who was the program director at the Fan 590, that hired Chuck Swirsky and I, John Shannon, who gave me my break in television, and John, was obviously the executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada and VP of the NHL. You know him from his time as well on Sportsnet on television. Scott Moore, who gave me an opportunity at Sportsnet. Mark Milliere at TSN, Paul Graham at TSN. There's so many different people that believed in me and gave me an opportunity to get it going as a broadcaster. So, and there's probably a bunch of them I haven't mentioned, unfortunately, because I can't mention it. It would take too long to mention. But those are a bunch of people that have really helped me in my career. Two different careers: coaching, broadcasting. Guy Pete Lonigan, who was the head coach at Niagara years before me, who's been a real mentor to me in terms of advice about coaching, advice about entering a new career. And the most important person, obviously, is my mom. When I speak to kids about role models and people that really made a difference in your life and in your career, the number one person is my mom. She's my hero. She's 93 years old. She lives in New York. I talk to her every day, and there's no question that everything I have in my life is because of all the sacrifices that she made for me, my three older brothers. My dad died of a heart attack when I was 7. So she raised 4 boys in an apartment building in Brooklyn. My parents are immigrants from Ireland, first generation, and they're off the boat. And, you talk about an opportunity. I spoke not too long ago at the College of Sports Media. And one of the things I said to the kids was that, what makes Canada a great country? What makes the United States a great country? People from all over the world want to come to these places. I'm an example of it. You're an example of it. And, we're very fortunate that the opportunities that exist here for all of us. So I'm blessed, and my mom is that person that had the courage to come over to a place where she, really didn't know a whole lot of people and start a new life, just like my dad. And here I am. So doing something with my life that I never imagined I'd do, and having a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from a great university like Fordham University in New York, all that because of the sacrifices and the life lessons that were given me.
That's an amazing story. Jack, what does a day look like for you on game day with the Raptors as a commentator?
Vince, it's kind of crazy every day, because, your life isn't just necessarily getting ready for that particular game. Your life is every day basketball. So during a traditional season, obviously, right now, what we're experiencing is the furthest thing from traditional. I mean, you're constantly watching games and reading about the NBA and talking to people. Uh, so your life is basketball. It's my whole life, playing, coaching, broadcasting. My whole career, my whole life has been sports and been basketball. So it's the relationships on a daily basis. But absolutely, there's a lot of research involved, and again, on off nights when I'm home watching games, on night, I might have a Raptor game at 7:30 or whatever, and now I'm either listening to a game on the radio, a late game, or watching a late game, whatever, watching tape, and just getting ready for the next game. And when you're at the arena, talking to scouts and pro personnel directors, talking to coaches and players and media people and broadcasters and referees and people from the league, you name it. It's never ending. It's your life. Um, during, getting up in the morning and getting ready for a particular game. I try to get to the press room. If we have a 7:30 game, I try to be there in the press room, 2:30, 3 o'clock. I go there real early. if I'm in Toronto because it's quiet and I sit and I'm able to kind of highlight my notes and read my notes, and I'm already ready because I've watched. We're playing the Cavs or whatever. I've watched them 4 or 5 times on television before we've played them, so I have a good feel for their team. I talk to coaches about scouting and keys and things like that, and so you just kind of get ready in your own different way. I have my own style to get ready for a game, and I feel comfortable when the light comes on for real that we're on. That you ask me a question, I'm ready to answer it. And a preparation is a daily thing. It's every day. It's 365. It's your life. So game day, there's a lot of radio shows that you do and interviews and different requests to meet season ticket holders and corporate sponsors. And, so not only am I a broadcaster, but you're an ambassador for the team. You're an ambassador for the sport. You're constantly wearing different hats. But my previous career as a coach, I think prepared me to do stuff like this because you're constantly shifting gears. You're a fundraiser. You're a motivational speaker. You're doing a lot of different things. You're wearing a lot of different hats. And I think it really helps prepare you for a job like this.
Jack, does your process change at all in the off season compared to the regular season?
Uh, I would say, obviously, when we get into the off season, you don't necessarily have games to watch. But, you have the summer league. You have the WNBA going on. You got international basketball, depending on the year, world championships, FIBA, the Olympics, whatever it may be. But there's always stuff to read. There's always stuff to follow. There's always folks that are, colleagues and friends in the game at the pro level, the college level, high school level, international, whatever, that you talk to, whether it be regularly, frequently, infrequently, whatever. But there's enough, my friendships, a high percentage of them are basketball related. So you're constantly calling, emailing, texting, meeting with people, having dinner with them, golfing, whatever the case may be. It's never ending. It's your life.
Most fans know you for your great catchphrases. I can't do them as well as you, so I'll just ask, how did you create them?
I think all by accident, honestly. Hello is kind of something that, like, growing up in Brooklyn, you'd see a pretty girl walk down the street, you'd go, hello. You turn to your friends, you go, hello. So kind of my thing with hello is, when I see a play that I'm super impressed by, I go, hello, and get that garbage out of here. This came from playing ball in the schoolyards of Brooklyn. And, guy blocks a shot and normally says, get that blank and blank out of here. Now, obviously, it's a family show. I can't use that on television or radio. So I turn around and I just, one night it came to me. I said, get that garbage out of here, in my Brooklyn accent. And it just kind of came out that way, and it's kind of taken off and people like it. And so those are the two that, they make T-shirts and hats. HelloJack.ca, by the way, if you want to get a hello hat or a toque or a T-shirt or get that garbage out of your thing. But it's really taken off. And so people have a good time with it. And then having fun with the different sponsors that are on the games, KFC and Bacardi and Coors and the different sponsors we've had over the years, Burger King, McDonald's, all the cars, Snickers, there's a million of them, MGD, I can't, there's so many I can't remember them all, but just having fun with the sponsors and kind of changing my voice levels and having a few laughs with it. So they get a kick out of it. And you know what? My job's to inform and entertain. And what's the name of MLSE that owns the Leafs and the Raptors, Toronto FC, the Argonauts, Maple Leaf Sports, and Entertainment. You look at ESPN. What is that? The Entertainment and Sports Network. So to me, we're in showbiz. And as much as I'm here as an ex-coach, as an analyst, breaking the game down and being super serious about strategy and this, that, the other thing, I want people to have fun. I mean, sports is an outlet. I mean, we're going through it right now with the crisis that's going on worldwide. People miss sports. It's a diversion. It's the toy department of life. So I try to have fun with it and entertain. And there's been years where the Raptors weren't very good, and we'd have to sing and dance and tap dance and whatever it took to keep people tuned in to the games. Now we still have fun, but the games and the product sells itself in a lot of ways because the team is really good. And Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, Dwayne Casey, Nick Nurse, and their entire staffs have done a remarkable job putting the sport of basketball on the Toronto Raptors at a level that when I first got to Toronto 22 years ago, it wasn't at. And the other thing is, I feel like I was part of a startup company. The Raptors are in their 25th year of existence. The first 3 years, Vince, I was still coaching, but the last 22, I've been part of the growth, a startup company, to see where the Raptors were in 1998 when I got here and to where it is now. I feel really fortunate to have been along for the ride, and it's been a fun ride.
Jack, on your comments about how the Raptors have evolved over time, how would you describe the evolution of the Raptors brand and the impact on Canadian basketball?
Well, it's been remarkable. I look at where basketball was. I've been in the region since 1988. I came from coaching at Fordham University in the Bronx from 84 to 88, and then came to Niagara for a year as an assistant and 9 years as the head coach. So I was at Niagara 10 years. So when I got to the area in 1988, immediately you start recruiting in Canada because Niagara University sits on the Niagara River. And across the river is Niagara Falls, Ontario. I live in Lewiston, New York. I live right across from Queenston Heights and Niagara on the Lake. So to recruit Canada, whether it be Southern Ontario, and I was in Montreal, and different parts of Canada recruiting players, I was like, man, there's a lot of talent here. But, don't mistake activity for achievement. There needed to be a greater growth of the teaching and the development and the awareness of how to do it. And I think when the NBA arrived, I know it started in 95. I can't remember if it was 93 or 94 when it was announced that Vancouver and Toronto would get NBA franchises. I'll never forget. I said I had a staff meeting, and I said to my assistant coaches, guys, look out the window. There's the new frontier right there. There's going to be players like crazy over there. And we got to make sure that we recruit the heck out of that area because there's going to be players coast to coast. And, Canada, and particularly Southern Ontario and Toronto, it's a melting pot. It's beautiful. It's a cultural mosaic. It welcomes immigration. It welcomes people and gives people an opportunity. And kids coming from all over the world to Canada, they didn't come to Canada, and their families didn't come to Canada with hockey on their mind. They came with soccer and basketball because those are the two world sports. And, you look at the NBA coming on both coasts, and it's so unfortunate that we lost Vancouver. But nonetheless, I always felt that the Toronto Raptors were a sleeping giant. And for many years, it was the most underperforming franchise in the NBA. Not necessarily one loss wise, but it was more that it had so much potential, more so than most markets in the United States. And now you get a visionary and a leader like Masai that came in And, I give Brian Colangelo, who Masai worked for, a lot of credit. I think his vision for bringing in international players and Toronto being an international city and a world-class city. And then Masai took it to a whole new level and has done an amazing job. Uh, so to me, it's been a great ride, and I think the Raptors have done an amazing job with being a national product, a national brand. The We the North campaign was absolutely brilliant. Whoever came up with that should get residuals for life. Um, it's amazing. So you follow the Toronto Raptors. It's like World Cup soccer. It's like the Olympics within the NBA. It's a national team. It's a national brand. And I would say the same thing for the Blue Jays, with the Expos leaving Montreal. It's something that, to me, if you're the Toronto Raptors and the Toronto Blue Jays, every single chance you get to tap into the national identity, I think you do it. And I think if you look at the experience of the last 6 years, and I hope we have a seventh playoff experience when, fingers crossed, knock wood, the NBA comes back. Um, that you see just an incredible national following for the Raptors and for the sport, and I think it's fabulous.
Jack, what's interesting to me about the Raptors, as you said, they were not the most well performed organization, and then over time they started, doing better in the front office, and then the We North campaign started, and then you have ambassadors such as Drake with the team. Seeing that firsthand, Jack, how would you describe all that with, let's say, Tim Lewicki getting hired with MLSC, and then Masai coming on, and then Drake? How would you describe the whole process?
It was, I'm sure you've seen the movie The Perfect Storm. It was the perfect storm. And you mentioned three of the main figures. I think Tim was an absolute visionary and bold and willing to come in and shake things up. And enough of being, was it last year, 2 years ago, Canada Basketball had a funny commercial that they had, and they played off of the kindness of Canadians. Sorry, 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 sorry. And I think Tim came in and said, enough of this sorry stuff. Let's stick our chest out and let's go for it. And I loved Masai's approach. I mean, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I grew up there. But when Masai said blank Brooklyn, I laughed. I was like, I like that. Even though I grew up there, I'm a little bit insulted. I was like, this is great, because he's sticking his chest out saying, come on, we're coming to get you. You're the big bad boys. You're the big city. We're coming to get you. And I love that. And, Dwayne Casey was a remarkable foundational coach, did an amazing job. Nick Nurse is a sensational coach. Tim's partnership with Drake, that was brilliant. Kids all over the world have such respect for Drake. And Drake's an authentic guy. He loves basketball. He grew up in Toronto. He has a passion and a love affair for the Toronto Raptors and for the sport of basketball. When I chat with him and I see him, he truly watches. He's a baller. He's into it. Like, it matters to him. He's not some guy just showing up to be seen. I mean, he watches it. He cares about it. He can talk about it. So it all came together, and some marvelous players. I mean, obviously, a DeMar DeRozan, a Kyle Lowry, a Kawhi Leonard, a Jonas Valanciunas, and a Mia Johnson. I mean, I'm thinking of some of the guys. I can close my eyes and start rattling guys off left, right, center. But there's so many guys that had played a big part in it, that were, the core of the whole thing. And you look at a Norm Powell and a Fred Van Vliet and a Pascal Siakam, a DeLon Wright, OG Anunoby, but so many different guys that had such a big part in the whole thing. And again, but they bring good people in, good high character people, and I'm proud to be affiliated with
That's awesome. Jack, before I move on to the next question, I just want to ask you, where were you when that Leonard shot happened, um, in Game 7, down to the wire?
I was doing the game. I was doing the game on TSN radio with Paul Jones. So literally, we were both standing up when it happened. And when the ball went up there, it was literally a super slow mo moment uh, in live time. Well, like literally, we all had our mouths open, like forever. And I think if you've seen some of the camera shots of it, like the still photography of it, it's absolutely brilliant. Some of the pictures of what happened. And, Vince, you and I sit here, we're doing this interview on May 11th. Tomorrow is the 1 year anniversary of the shot, May 12th, against Philadelphia. And, it's frustrating, obviously, because we've only played 64 regular season games. We haven't even gotten into the playoffs yet. So, and again, who knows what that's going to look like. But I do know what that shot looked like. And I do remember that moment vividly. And it was just a remarkable experience.
That's amazing, Jack. What is your most memorable experience so far in your career?
I would have to say, working Game 6 of the NBA Finals last year, the clinching game at Golden State. Um, I felt really confident. You kind of just have like this inner tranquility. I had a speaking engagement um, in Toronto, so I didn't fly on the charter um, to San Francisco. I had to fly the next day, and the day before the game. So on my flight to San Francisco, there were tons of Raptor fans, and on the plane, I felt really good. And the reason why is that the Raptors crushed the Warriors during the regular season with a full Warrior team, by the way. And the Raptors didn't have Kawhi Leonard that night. They destroyed the Warriors. And then the two times in games 3 and 4 at Golden State, when they played them, they beat them both times. And I felt like Game 5 in Toronto was the Warriors' last stand, that they didn't have much left. And shame on me, they had more left than I thought because they competed their tails off in the first half. And what a great first half that was at Golden State in Game 6. And just a phenomenal effort by the Raptors in the second half to win that game. So that to me was just an incredible highlight to call the deciding game of the first championship ever in Toronto history for the Raptors and first best. It was the biggest basketball moment in Canadian history, and to be part of that obviously was just a night I'll never forget in my life. And you get goosebumps because you're like, wow, I just called a gold medal game. I just called a World Cup final. It was that. You look at the ratings for that game that night. I'll never forget Matt when we started the game mentioned I think there were close to 60 official watch parties across Canada, and that doesn't even count the unofficial watch parties, which were in the thousands. So to me, it was just you're like, man, how did a knucklehead like me get an opportunity to call a game like this? But you try to meet the moment, and you try to, you're prepared. So you asked me earlier about what's game day like. It's your life prepares you for that. This is one of those this is your life moments that everything from the time you first started playing to that moment, it's your whole life being in basketball, and you just let the pictures before you tell you a story, and you do the best you can trying to use words to pictures, and you hope you do a good job doing it.
Jack, I can't thank you enough for doing this. It was great speaking with you, and I'm such a big fan of you. Every time I watch the Raptors game, it's one of the reasons is because of you. So to be able to do this, it's been really an honor and an experience that I'll remember forever. So thank you, Jack.
Vince, my pleasure, and good luck and congratulations to you as you move on to another stage in your life and after graduation from college. So that's a great accomplishment, and it's wonderful. And I always used to say when I coached in college, those 4 years impact how you do the next 40. So take those great habits you've developed and the lessons you've learned in the classroom and take them on to bigger and better things. So onward and upward, and congratulations. And it's an honor and privilege that you had me on today.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack.
My pleasure, Vince.